Tonight, a monarchy that has survived wars, abdications, assassinations and scandals now faces a crisis that could redefine its future forever. In the early hours of the morning, police crossed the gates of Sandringham House without warning. By breakfast, a man once known as a prince was reading his rights. By nightfall, his fingerprints, DNA, and mugshot were on file. This was not rumor. Not speculation. Not tabloid fantasy. This was real, and it was seismic. At the center stands Prince Andrew, once a decorated naval officer, once a global trade envoy, once shielded by status and ceremony. Now under investigation for misconduct in public office, facing allegations so serious they carry the possibility of life behind bars. The search of his residences near Windsor. The hours inside a police station. The silence from palace walls. And a nation watching in disbelief? The fallout stretches far beyond one man. Buckingham Palace has been forced into crisis mode. King Charles III issuing a rare personal statement. Whispers of internal anger. Talk of generational power shifts. Comparisons to the abdication crisis of 1936. Some are calling it the greatest royal scandal in a century. How did it come to this? What evidence triggered the dawn raid? Who else could be pulled into the widening storm? And could this investigation shake the foundations of a 1,000-year-old institution? This is more than a headline. It's a reckoning. A fall from privilege to peril. And before this story ends, the House of Windsor may never look the same again. Stay with us. Because what happens next could change history. What unfolded after that dramatic arrest was not just a legal procedure. It was a slow, public unraveling of power, privilege, and protection. For decades, Prince Andrew operated inside one of the most protected institutions in the world. As a former UK trade envoy, he had access to high-level meetings, confidential briefings, and sensitive economic discussions. That role, once seen as a prestigious extension of royal diplomacy, is now at the very heart of the investigation. Detectives are reportedly examining whether confidential government information was improperly shared during his tenure, a potential breach of public trust that elevates this case from scandal to national security concern. The offense under scrutiny, misconduct in public office, is not symbolic. It is serious, rarely invoked, and carries the weight of life imprisonment in extreme cases. Legal experts suggest that investigators would not have launched such a high-profile dawn raid without believing substantial evidence already existed. Search teams moved methodically through properties linked to him, reportedly seizing electronic devices, documents, and archived communications. Every email. Every file. Every contact. Inside palace walls, the response has been calculated and cold. Buckingham Palace has made it clear that this is a personal legal matter, not a royal one. The distancing is deliberate. The institution is in preservation mode. King Charles III issued a carefully worded statement emphasizing that the law must take its course. For a reigning monarch to comment directly in his own words is rare. It signals both seriousness and separation. There will be no shield. No intervention. No special treatment. Behind the scenes, sources suggest that Prince William has been deeply frustrated by the damage already inflicted on the monarchy's reputation. William represents the future of the crown, modern, streamlined, image-conscious. Another drawn-out scandal threatens years of effort to stabilize public trust following past controversies. Public opinion in Britain has shifted sharply. Once merely controversial, Andrew is now widely seen as a liability. Tabloids have turned ruthless. Headlines speak of royal disgrace and historic humiliation. Crowds outside royal residences are no longer curious, they are critical. The symbolism is stark. A man born into extraordinary privilege sitting inside a police station interview room for 9 hours on his 66th birthday. Internationally, the story has amplified. The shadow of his past association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein continues to linger, even though this current investigation is reportedly separate from that case. For many, the controversies blur together, reinforcing a narrative of poor judgment and dangerous connections. But this moment carries implications far beyond individual guilt or innocence. If charges are formally laid, the constitutional consequences could be profound. Andrew remains in the line of succession. While stripped of military titles and patronages, his bloodline connection cannot simply be erased without legislative action. Parliament could face pressure to intervene. Legal proceedings involving a senior royal would test boundaries that have rarely been challenged in modern times. There are also security and diplomatic ramifications. The monarchy plays a soft power role globally. Ongoing criminal proceedings tied to a senior royal risk undermining Britain's moral authority abroad. With state visits scheduled and delicate geopolitical relationships in play, the timing could not be more destabilizing. Then there is the historical weight. The last comparable crisis many historians reference is the 1936 abdication of King Edward VIII, a scandal that shook the empire. Some royal commentators are already arguing that this investigation may eclipse even that, because this time the issue is not romance or protocol, it is alleged criminal conduct tied to public office. Legal analysts warn that this saga could stretch for years. Pre-trial hearings, evidence challenges, media battles. Every development broadcast globally in real time. The monarchy will be stress-tested not just by legal scrutiny but by relentless public examination. And one looming question hangs in the air: if investigators find deeper networks of misconduct, could others be drawn into the case? Political figures? Business leaders? Former aides? The possibility of a widening circle is what keeps this story volatile. For now, Andrew has been released pending further investigation. No charges have yet been announced. He denies wrongdoing. But the image of police vehicles entering royal grounds has already rewritten the narrative. A prince once saluted on world stages now stands at the center of a criminal probe that could redefine accountability at the highest level of society. This is no longer just a royal scandal. It is a test of whether centuries of tradition bow to the rule of law, or whether history will fracture under the weight of modern justice. And as investigators continue their work behind closed doors, the world waits for the next move, because whatever comes next will not just decide one man's fate. It may reshape the monarchy itself. As night falls over the royal estates, the silence feels heavier than ever. Behind guarded gates and ancient stone walls, conversations are no longer about ceremony or tradition, they are about survival. Not survival of a man, but survival of an institution that has stood for more than 1,000 years. For Prince Andrew, the legal storm is only beginning. Investigators are now deep into forensic analysis, digital trails, financial movements, archived communications from his years as trade envoy. Every decision he made in public office is being re-examined under a microscope. In cases involving misconduct in public office, prosecutors must prove not just poor judgment, but a willful abuse of entrusted power. That threshold is high. But so are the stakes. Legal experts suggest that if sufficient evidence is found, the next step would be formal charges, a move that would trigger constitutional questions Britain has not confronted in modern history. A senior royal facing a criminal trial would demand unprecedented security, courtroom protocols, and perhaps even parliamentary debate over his status in the line of succession. Inside Buckingham Palace, strategy is everything. The monarchy has already adopted a posture of distance. No public defense. No visible support. A clear line separating the individual from the crown. This is institutional self-preservation. For King Charles III, the crisis is deeply personal yet politically delicate. A brother under investigation. A nation demanding accountability. A commonwealth watching closely. His reign, still in its defining phase, now risks being overshadowed by scandal not of his making. The king's message has been simple: the law must take its course. But history shows that when royal crises escalate, the consequences rarely remain contained. Then there is Prince William, the future of the monarchy. Those close to palace circles suggest he views this moment as pivotal. A generational shift is already underway. A slimmer monarchy. Fewer working royals. Greater transparency. If Andrew's case proceeds to trial, it could accelerate reforms that permanently reshape how the royal family functions. Public sentiment is shifting from shock to judgment. In the age of digital transparency, privilege no longer guarantees protection. The symbolism of a royal subjected to fingerprinting and questioning resonates globally. It reinforces a powerful message: no one is above scrutiny. Yet uncertainty remains. Andrew denies wrongdoing. Charges have not been filed. Investigations can stall, collapse, or intensify. But the damage to reputation, to mystique, is already done. The aura of untouchability has cracked. History will remember this chapter not for the spectacle of flashing cameras or tabloid headlines, but for what it represents: a collision between ancient tradition and modern accountability. If prosecutors move forward, Britain could witness something unthinkable: a prince standing before a criminal court, not as a symbol of heritage, but as a private citizen answering to the law. And if that moment comes, it will mark the definitive end of one era and the brutal beginning of another. The gates of privilege have been opened. The investigation continues. And the House of Windsor now stands at the edge of its most defining test in a century. Whatever happens next, there will be no turning back.